Hey, this is just a quick note to let you know that Team Champs 2025 has been sponsored by City Strength. You're probably already familiar with City Strength. They're Australia's exclusive retailer for SBD, but they also sell a broader range of strength and powerlifting related equipment. So a big thanks to City Strength for sponsoring our competition this year. And I hope you enjoy this episode. G'day everyone, I'm here with Edgar Degay of SR Collective, a team that have earned their way into the Premier bracket after an awesome fight last year. So I'm looking forward to speaking to Edgar. How are you going?
I'm going well. How about yourself, JP?
Good, man. Good. Yeah, things are going good. We're excited to be chatting to you. Tell me a little bit about the setup at SR. So last year I spoke to Dan, but Dan was the assistant coach. But Dan was was quite active in terms of setting things up. So for those that don't know, Dan Featherston. So it's yourself and Dan and
Jaden Rowe.
right. Yeah, so it's you three that are running SR Collective.
Yeah.
And this year, we can say this because this won't go up till next. This is technically today is the last day of
changes. So yeah,
changes, but this won't go up until afterwards. So this year we got Dan as the head coach because you're going to be on the platform.
Yep, I'm going to be on the platform. With that decision, it just became. It just came down to the point where like I was the most compatible when we were switching the teams around. Initially the first round of nominations we were set on that, but then of course we had to deal with injuries. We had Ezra. We nominated her first, and then of course things happen. We need to change, and then of course we had Chung as well. Nominated him first, and then when we saw the initial nominations from the last update, that's when we had to scope the teams out a bit more, and it just came down to me being the most compatible. So it was originally going to be Jaden again, who represented last year, but he's doing side quests. So the man's doing everything. He's doing judo, he's doing boxing. Last year he did Olympic weightlifting, competed in bodybuilding, did team champs. So this time he needs to put his head down on boxing, and then I was just next up in line.
Awesome, man. Jaden is a bit of a loves to do everything, and I mean, I remember last year where he stood out for being like the most shredded guy on the platform. So, I guess you're doing your best to try to fill that void, to be the most shredded on the platform this year, right?
Yeah, of course. So, I don't know if you've checked my Instagram. Yeah, I'm prepping for a bodybuilding comp as well. So
No,
after team champs, I'm like 12 weeks out. So, yeah.
Maybe inspired by Jaden.
But I did it first before Jaden. So I did 2019. So,
right, so Jaden was inspired by you.
Yeah, so during that time I was coaching Jaden 2019 also, when I did, power building, competing both powerlifting and bodybuilding at the same time. 2020, I think Jay competed in 2020 for bodybuilding, and then during 2023, because like Jay and Dan, very, very good mates, worked together at Platinum at the time. I was coaching Jaden. We were, still looking at bodybuilding. Dan just made them sign up, 4 weeks out from Strength Fortress as well. So I just get a message saying, okay, Jay signed up 4 weeks out from his first powerlifting comp at yours. And so, yeah, that was probably, just a bit of a law about how we started doing the powerlifting and bodybuilding at the same time kind of thing. In a way where like, now I'm kind of thankful for running clubs and, people mixing up endurance and powerlifting. Compatibility between those sports are a lot further apart, whereas bodybuilding and powerlifting, they're kind of close together. So, dude, if we have like people thriving doing endurance training and powerlifting, like I'm pretty sure we are not the first to do, competing in bodybuilding and powerlifting at the same time. So,
of course, they're very complementary, is what you're saying. Yes, correct. But I mean, it's still nevertheless going to be a challenge. At least you've got 12 weeks. At least it's not a crazy thing like 4 weeks between. That would be a little bit harder, but 12 weeks, at least there's a little bit enough time. And so, kind of as we alluded to, you are lifting, and this might be a good time to kind of go into your team, right? So you're obviously one of the owners of SR Collective, but you are competing, and as we've insinuated, you've gone down a weight class. You're losing some body weight, and so you're lifting in the 74 kilos. Is this the first time you're lifting at 74 kilo class?
No, I started in 2019. It's a 74 kilo lifter, and then Going then the PA route, Powerlifting Australia, there was 77, and that was like perfect for me. Then COVID hit, went up to 82s, then now back to 74s again. So back from where we started. So yeah.
Excellent. And so you're lifting at 74, and talk us through the other three lifters that are representing the collective.
So this time, Aaron Carew, he had a break last year. Huge performance during 2023. Oh, sorry, no, because it's always
Hello.
like I was worried this will happen, but like Aaron Carew, made his debut 2023, broke a couple national records, so under 120, and we took a break last year just due to personal reasons and switching jobs, and then yeah, this time around he's back, so he's gonna.
Yeah, I feel like I remember seeing him around. He's a pretty big deadlifter. Or am I mixing him up with someone?
Yeah. He's squats. He's probably gonna be more of a squat specialist.
Okay.
But yeah,
And he's lifting in the 120s.
in the 120s. Yep.
Excellent. And who are the other two?
The other two, so Danny Biscosho, the Dominator, had a bit of adversity at the start of her powerlifting journey, but then ever since then, just made heaps of progress, and now she's back to represent SR Strength Collective once again. But this time around, she was 52s last time, and now she's growing into the 57s. And then our lucky last, Lagi, our most experienced lifter. She's an absolute veteran, more than 10 comps under her belt. She's also done Commonwealth. So yeah, she competed at Elemental just a couple months ago, and that was like an RPA comp. And yeah, whatever's up on open powerlifting now, that won't be her that won't be her those won't be the numbers that she'll be doing during
All
team
right,
champs.
that's awesome, man. That's
Yeah,
a really, really, really good rundown. And so we'll go into the individual classes a little bit more in a second, but I want to first take us back to last year. I think I said to you before we started, before we hit record, that I was in a bit more contact with Dan last year. Dan was kind of like, I guess, your main representative for the most part. At least that's who I was kind of communicating with. And he loves team champs. I know he does, and he's super enthusiastic. And his big goal was to get you guys into the Premier bracket to finish in
yeah,
that top 4 spot, which you guys were successful at, and it was a really tough fight. There were so many other teams that missed out. Groove Lifting just missed out, or at the time 3PP. Paragon were really close up there.
yeah.
So to have qualified for the Premier bracket was no easy task. But you're in there this year. And how are you guys feeling kind of being on the second day? Is that something that you've thought about much? Or what's the kind of general sentiment or feeling as we're coming into this comp?
So with the challenge you mentioned in your that the Premier, those in the Premier bracket have got an advantage because you can kind of scope out the competition on that Saturday, right? But if we narrow down our goals to just getting promoted to the Premier bracket, that was our goal last year. Um, the pool of competition becomes smaller, and so if last year our goal was just to get into the premiers. We didn't have to worry about the other 10 teams that competing the next day. It was all about securing the premiership positions. There was a lot more room for trickery. Team champs last year, we were only 10 months into the business, so our pool of lifters, it wasn't very deep yet. So yeah, we had 2 lifters then, Haley Bradley and Kat Biscosher. That was the first ever competition, in that 40-degree heat as well. Brutal conditions, but they thrived. But yeah, being in the challenger bracket, it allows for trickery because you can have placeholders and then switch them out. And then I'm not sure what the other team's goals are in the challenger bracket, but like if you narrow it down to just getting a promotion, it makes it a lot easier. So you just have to worry about the 10 teams in the challenger bracket to get up into the premiership bracket. But this time around, it's not we can't really have strategic picks anymore, because with Haley Bradley and Kat Biscocher, we place them in the weight classes that are unpopulated.
Mhm.
Then after the initial after the final nominations, everyone had the same idea, but it still favored us because we were only thinking about the other 10 teams in the challenger brackets. But this time around, as I said before, the picks will be more strength picks rather than strategic picks.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
For example, a weight class could have, just to clarify for those that are listening, a weight class could have 5 lifters in that class. But if 4 of those lifters are premier bracket lifters and you're a challengers bracket, well, that's
Yeah.
actually quite beneficial for you, because at the end of day one, you're going to win. And so you actually have to separate the lifters by their bracket and make sure that you're entering in lifters that are in those less populated classes, so you can score points on day one.
Yeah. So that's what it was all about for us. We didn't expect to win team champs last year, being 10 months into the business and not having that many lifters. But yeah, this time around, we just had to choose the strongest, because it's us versus everyone this time around.
Exactly right. And whereas if you're lifting in the premier bracket, you don't have that luxury, and you just have to have a strong team. Like, you can't, like, it's going to be
Yeah.
much more populated. There's more, like, every class will be full, especially this year with the APA classes. There are less classes, so they're all going to be full. It's not, there are no
Yeah.
easy wins, or at least a very few of them. Excellent. And so you kind of mentioned about bringing back your goals. Last year you had a very clear goal. Have you guys thought about what your goal might be this year, or what you're looking to achieve this year?
So this time around, we are standing on the shoulder of giants. Shout out to Kat Biscocher, Haley Bradley, Jaden Rowe, Danny. We are going to make him proud, and our goal this time around is to just hold our position in the premiers.
Yeah, awesome. I think that's a pretty legitimate goal. Similar sentiment, I suspect. I don't think that you guys are going to be one of the major favorites to win the whole competition. And so if you guys can at least hold your place in the premier bracket for next year, you continue to grow as a business and as a club,
Of course.
and do a little bit more damage next year. But I think that's very reasonable. Speaking about doing damage, I want to go through some of these weight classes. So the 74 kilo class, your class, let's start with yourself, because that's where we started earlier. Always
Yeah.
going to be a hotly contested
Yep.
weight class. How do you see things shaping up there?
There at the moment, I'm seeing wide boy. They've got two people in there. So I'm not sure if Brian Ong has changed his weight class yet, because I'm pretty sure earlier on, when Chris Yip was competing in team champs, he would either stay at 74s or stay at 75s at the time, or go up to 83s. So at the moment, I'm feeling that he's either he could take out the 83s if he's emailed you. Has he emailed you though? I mean, this episode will go live like after the nomination. So has he changed his
He's lifting at 74 as far as I'm concerned. He hasn't contacted me. I mean, for those that are listening in the future, this is Friday morning. So
Yeah.
we've still got the rest of the day. And I have asked everyone to try
Yeah.
to get things in early to me, because it makes my life a little bit easier. But he hasn't said anything. So
Yeah, so in the
far,
74s, he's got two lifters in there. So like you don't really want to occupy two team members in the same weight class. Otherwise, like, you're missing out on points. So yeah, he's definitely the one to watch at 74s. But like 74s, very strong. You've got Dean from Strength Culture, Frank, who's cut down as well from the 83s. I know last nationals I went up against him and I got absolutely smoked. We were just like before we started recording, I actually asked JP if he was lifting a 74s, but like, I'm confirming that he's not.
correct. Maybe I have been
Yeah.
training heavy just in case, super sub if someone gets injured. But no, I'm not lifting. But the 74 is always going to be a competitive group. And like you mentioned,
Yeah.
Brian Ong, clearly going to be the favorite. I think it'd be hard to imagine anybody outlifting Brian in the 74s. But like I said, Frank Bichetta, I think, is a little bit of a dark horse, like, has been lifting at 83 for the longest time. How much is the weight loss going to affect him? Hard to say. You mentioned the lifter from Melbourne Strength Culture. I've lost it now. Where are we going? Dean,
Yeah,
of
Dean.
course, sorry.
Yeah, he's
Previously
strong
lifted
as
at
well.
66. Very, very strong. So it's going to be tough to get on that podium for sure.
Yeah.
And our next lifter, we mentioned Kuru in the 120s, Aaron.
Yeah, Aaron Carew in the 120s. So we got a couple of strong boys in the 120s. I think let me pull up the team champs team at the moment. What's
The
happening?
nominations.
The nomination.
Yeah, I think the favorite in that class is easily going to be Charles Kalfusi of Process. I mean,
Yeah,
he's a
yeah, of
freaking beast,
process.
deadlifting well over 300,
Whereas we've
scoring
got
280
Aaron,
plus.
yeah, Aaron Grant from Stronghold. Huge deadlifter,
Hmm.
very strong. But yeah, Aaron's got he's quite strong and squats, quite strong and deads. Bench, we are working on it. Wait a minute, I lost you. But like,
Forever
yeah,
project.
yeah, it's a forever. That's it. It's a forever project. But like, yeah, he'd do really well. And of course, with the under 120 is not as populated. It's yeah, I think we are guaranteed points there.
Yeah, exactly right. I think so too. And back to our girls, Danny, who you referred to as the Dominator, lifting in the
Yeah, that's
57-kilo class now, not in the 63s as
yeah,
initially nominated. The 57-kilo class, again, always a competitive group. I'm looking at names like Stephanie Hong from Kanoku, who I know is really, really
yeah,
talented, but it isn't the deepest field, admittedly.
yeah, yeah. So with D being in the 57s, earlier on we were talking about if she's gonna stay in the 52s or 57s this time because she's our best candidate, and with the way her training's going, there's really no point of forcing her to go down to 52s again when she's making strides, being a bit heavier. So we're just gonna play it as is and just remove the extra stress of acute weight cutting because she's done that the previous 2-3 comps where she competed 52s. She had that, and this time we are just we're just letting her compete at her natural weight and just see how that goes.
And what kind of total is she looking to put up in the 57 class?
600.
That's a good answer. I like it. A
Yeah,
very diplomatic answer. But I think the weight class that I'm most looking forward to, not only um, amongst the lifters that we're talking about now, but I think for the whole weekend, the 69-kilo women's weight class.
yeah. The six. That's probably the um. Is that the deepest weight class in?
I don't think it's the deepest by numbers in terms of like the number of lifters, but it's definitely the deepest in terms of talent. I mean, for
Yeah,
those that are just listening at home, in that weight class, we've got Jessica Lamb, over 400 kilo total, numerous times, I think 420, 425 total. Last year competed and totaled around 420. Isabella Macris, super talented lifter. I don't know what her best
hmm
total is, but it's around the 430, 440 mark as well. Carmen Di Domenico, 400 kilo totaler as well.
yeah,
Emma Dixon's currently nominated. I think she might be the furthest behind on total. And Lota, also a 440 kilo total. So, and then of course, your representative, Lagi, who is a freaking
Lagi.
machine.
Yeah, she's a machine. 435 total. Pretty easy day as well. So yeah, that's probably the weight class that's one to watch because you get all the girls under 69s, they all pack a punch. They're all so strong. We are looking at around um it'll be like 420 plus dots for most of them. So
Yeah.
yeah, super excited.
Like just to get on the podium, you're going to need at least 420 dots,
Yeah,
that
yeah,
420 total.
yeah.
And how do you see Lagi faring in that weight class? Like I said, that's a really deep weight class. It's going to be very. I think that's like one of the key weight classes to keep an eye on.
Yeah, the 69s. Hey, last comp she did elemental. She got 435, and that was a fairly easy comp for her. And now I'm sure we got more in the bag.
All right, so it's going to be really hotly contested. It sounds like you're very confident that Lagi is going to be towards the top end of that group. Who do you think's the biggest threat, I suppose, in that 69-kilo class? Because I know you've done your research. Like I know you're well prepared.
With that one, yeah, it's probably it'll be Lotta. She's from Apex, isn't she?
Yeah, yeah,
Yep, it'll be her. Both of them. I'm pretty sure both of them have had international experience as well. Lagi's done Commonwealth. Lotta, I think, it's done well, something like that. But yeah, it comes down to it. We are looking at those who are most experienced, so those two will probably not crack. Yeah, they've experienced pressure,
Yeah.
and when you're accustomed to that pressure, you know you thrive in it, and you don't crack. And if we're looking at experience, them going at higher levels of competition, they are probably the ones that are least likely to crack.
Yeah, exactly right. I think that
Yeah.
that experience is going to be very critical. I mean, Loda last year totaled 440. Like you said, she's an international level lifter.
Yeah.
So is Lagi. So it's going to be a really, really good battle. I'm really looking
It's
forward to
probably
it.
going to come down to whoever misses the first, whoever misses an attempt first is the one that loses. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. You can't afford to miss a squat, I think, is the key thing.
Yeah.
You can't afford to miss a squat in that group. Like, if it's one-on-one and you miss a squat, okay, maybe you can make it back. But when there's 4 or 5 of you fighting for podium, you miss one
Yeah.
squat, like, it's just
Yeah.
going to be very, very difficult to claw your way back. Of
Yeah.
course, anything can happen. That's what we love about sports.
Yeah.
And who's your, I guess, major pick then? You guys, we've kind of like loosely established that the podium isn't exactly on the main list of objectives for you. So who do you kind of see? Let's start with the challengers bracket. If you've had a look at that, who are the teams to look out for on day one, in your opinion?
Day one, it'll definitely be process.
Mm-hmm.
Process is established. But this time around, yeah, it's the first time in team champs, and then you've got compound as well, very very strong. And of course, we've still got the veterans, the veteran teams. We've still got Avia. We've still got Avia around, and even Strength Fortress. So
Yeah, it's gonna be
yeah,
good.
yeah, and even we've got worlds around the same time as team champs, don't we? So
Yes, same
the,
week.
the, the top teams, ESS, Victor, Uplift. So we are losing some of those key lifters from previous years because obviously they're doing well. So yeah,
It's insane
it's
to think that worlds are stealing lifters from a local comp in Melbourne, right? That's insane.
yeah, yeah. It is. It's insane. It's ridiculous. We need them. We need them back in team champs. But yeah, so in terms of number one, your ESS will still has the deepest team, even though with hung out. But yeah, with a few of the top teams, some of them are representing Australia in worlds, obviously. So it's still gonna be exciting, but like yeah, we need
And
we need to
so
hit this
yeah, I
well.
think a common belief is that process and compound are the teams to look out for on day one, and those teams are quite likely going to get promoted at least next year. And some are even claiming that they could even win the whole thing from day one, which would be incredible.
Yeah.
But overall, who are you looking at as your top teams? Who do you think is going to take out the crown, the top place?
I'd say because of the current nominations, John Chan from ESS, he's by himself at the 66, and he's a
Good
very
points.
very strong lifter as well. So him being at the 66, he's a very strong 66 lifter. He may stay there. He may deter others from putting other teams from
Swapping into that class.
swapping into that class. And so yeah, I'd probably say I had a list going on. Probably ESS. ESS probably number one, of course. You have Apex as well, number two. With Loda and Tony Rainmouth. So probably those are probably the top two for me. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 will just be a toss up. So yeah,
Yeah, I have to agree with you. I think that not enough people are talking about Apex. They've got Tony Reinmuth. He's at 140 plus, 120 plus. He'll win, obviously,
yeah,
assuming he doesn't bomb. Lotta is the big question mark because she doesn't really post much on social media. She could come
yeah,
first. She could come fourth. Like as we spoke
yeah,
about. So very hard to say. But you also got to remember they have Adwa. Adwa is a super strong lifter at 84 kilos. Like she deadlifts 200 kilos.
yeah,
She will have the day advantage over her closest competitor, Emily Kano. Emily lifting the day before. So Ard will
yeah,
have that experience, that advantage. And then their other lifter, Apex's other lifter, Gabrielle, in the 105s. I mean, the 105s is a tough
yeah.
class.
It's tough,
That's
but
probably where they might lose the most points, depending on how he performs.
yeah, well, like with Apex having I'm pretty. They're gonna get points. Three of their lifters are gonna get points. The 105 is really tough. With I forgot about the 84s. There's only two competitors, Adwa and Kano's very strong. Ad was very strong, but still, you are still guaranteed points there. So yeah, I think for me, top two will be ESS and Apex, and 2, 3, 4, 5. It's yeah, not sure what's gonna happen after that. So
It's going to be hard to pick, but I mean that's why we do it. That's why we have to see what happens, and
yeah,
that's part of the drama and the excitement, I guess.
yeah, that's it.
All right, man. Yeah, it's been a pleasure chatting to you, kind of hearing a little bit about your perspective and your team. We're stoked to have the SR Collective at our comp. You know, another gym from out west of Melbourne.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, we're really looking forward to seeing you there in 3 weeks. Wishing you the best of luck with the rest of your prep, man.
All right. Cheers so much. Have a nice day.
Thanks a lot, mate.
All right.